Hi, Seekers of the Abyss, and welcome to The Great Abyss, where the unknown whispers and the shadows hide ancient horrors. Since the dawn of time, whispers of forbidden knowledge have haunted those who dare to seek the truth. Hidden among ancient manuscripts and lost scrolls lies a book feared above all others, a tome so dangerous that merely reading its words could drive one to madness. Today we delve into the Necronomicon, the cursed grimoire that speaks of entities beyond human comprehension, beings so ancient, so powerful, that their very names are said to unravel the mind. But who are these cosmic horrors? What secrets are locked within these forbidden pages? And what happens to those unfortunate enough to uncover the truth? This video required deep research and careful analysis, so if you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Long before the universe was even a thought, before the stars, before the planets, before reality itself, they were already there. The primordial entities, ancient beyond measure, exist outside the bounds of time and space. They are not gods, at least not in the way humans imagine deities. Gods are meant to be understood, worshipped, even feared within the limits of human comprehension. But these beings, they are something else entirely. They have no morality, no desires, no grand schemes, at least none that we could ever understand. Some have been locked away, slumbering in the depths of reality, their influence seeping into the minds of those who dare to seek them out. Others exist freely, moving between dimensions, warping existence itself in ways beyond reason. Their presence alone bends the rules of physics, corrupting everything they touch. Trying to describe them is an exercise in madness. What we see, tentacles, eyes, shifting forms, are mere interpretations, desperate attempts of the human brain to make sense of the impossible. If we could perceive them as they truly are, we wouldn't just go insane, we would cease to exist as we know ourselves. Because once you understand them, you are no longer the same. Some say they whisper to us, guiding civilizations toward greatness or destruction. Others believe they simply don't care, that we are nothing more than dust beneath their notice. The Necronomicon is said to hold fragments of their truth, incantations, warnings, and perhaps even ways to summon them. But let's be clear, knowing is dangerous, naming them is worse, and calling upon them, that's a mistake you don't live to regret. Yet, throughout history, there have always been those who couldn't resist, those who thought they could control what should never be understood, and in every case, it ended the same way, with horror beyond imagining. Let's explore them. Among the most feared and worshipped entities in ancient times is Yig, the primordial serpent god. Unlike many cosmic horrors that exist in the void, Yig has been deeply tied to Earth for millennia. Some describe him as a monstrous coiled serpent with an intelligence far beyond human comprehension. Others claim he takes on more humanoid forms, appearing as a towering reptilian deity that slithers between dimensions. But one thing remains consistent: Yig is vengeful. Legends speak of entire civilizations wiped out for daring to offend him. Unlike other eldritch beings that exist beyond morality, Yig does take offense, and his punishments are swift. Those who kill snakes, disrupt his sacred places, or mock his presence find themselves haunted, tormented by nightmares so real they blur the line between dream and reality. His vengeance isn't always direct. Sometimes he simply marks his victims, leaving them to spiral into madness as slithering shadows stalk their every step. But Yig is not merely a god of punishment. He is the father of the Serpent Men, an ancient race far older than humanity. These beings, far more intelligent and cunning than mere reptiles, are said to have once ruled the earth, crafting civilizations with knowledge stolen from the stars. Though their empire has faded into legend, whispers persist. Hidden temples deep in the jungle, ancient underground cities, and secret cults that still serve their scaly overlord, awaiting the day when the serpent god reclaims his domain. And if that day comes, humanity may not have a place in his world. If Yig represents the slow, creeping horror of an ancient race reclaiming its power, Ghatanothoa is something far more immediate and far worse. This deity of living death is not just feared, it is actively avoided at all costs. Unlike other eldritch beings that whisper in dreams or influence from afar, Ghatanothoa's terror is horrifyingly direct. It is said that to look upon him, even for the briefest moment, is to suffer a fate far worse than death. Petrification. But not the kind you're thinking of. Ghatanothoa does not simply turn his victims to stone. No, that would be merciful. His power locks the body in a state of eternal paralysis. The skin hardens, the muscles freeze, and the victim becomes a grotesque statue of themselves. But the true horror, the mind remains intact. Those who fall victim to Ghatanothoa's gaze are trapped within their own bodies, unable to move, unable to scream, unable to die. Time becomes meaningless as they linger in this state, possibly for centuries, their consciousness desperately clawing for release that never comes. Some ancient texts even claim that these victims can still see, their frozen eyes forced to witness eternity in isolation. This horror is not just legend. The Necronomicon speaks of civilizations that once worshipped Ghatanothoa, constructing massive temples to contain his presence. They feared him as much as they revered him, believing that even his image carried the risk of petrification. To prevent accidental exposure, priests would wrap their heads in layers of fabric before performing any rites in his name. But over time, the temples crumbled, the worshippers vanished, and Ghatanothoa faded into obscurity. Or so we believe, because if he still slumbers beneath the earth, waiting for the moment to rise again, then the horror of eternal conscious petrification may not be a thing of the past. And if you ever hear of an ancient relic or a forbidden text said to contain his image, do yourself a favor, don't look at it. Deep beneath the waves, hidden in the trenches of the ocean floor, sleeps Zoth-Ommog, a being whose very existence is an insult to reality. Though not as powerful as the infamous Great Old One Cthulhu, Zoth-Ommog is still a nightmare in its own right, a twisted, tentacled abomination with a body that defies human anatomy. Some ancient texts describe him as vaguely humanoid, but with a bloated, aquatic form covered in writhing appendages and pulsating otherworldly flesh. Others claim his tentacles do not belong to the same plane of existence, shifting and bending in ways that the human mind cannot fully perceive. Unlike Cthulhu, whose name has echoed throughout history, Zoth-Ommog is far more obscure. He is not worshipped by as many cults, nor does he appear in as many forbidden texts. But those who do know of him fear him deeply. It is said that he was once imprisoned beneath the sea by ancient forces, sealed away in a city as lost to time as R'lyeh itself. And while his master remains in slumber, so too does Zoth-Ommog for now. But there are those who seek his return. In the depths of the ocean, near islands untouched by modern civilization, whispers speak of cults that still make offerings to the lesser spawn. They believe that when the stars are right, Zoth-Ommog will rise once more, an omen of Cthulhu's awakening, a herald of the age when humanity will be nothing more than prey for the eldritch horrors of the deep. And when that day comes, the ocean itself will become our greatest fear. While many of the great old ones slumber beneath the sea or in distant galaxies, Tegoth waits in a place far more terrifying, beneath the frozen wastelands of the Arctic. The ancient texts speak of this monstrous being lying in hibernation for millennia, entombed beneath ice so thick and so ancient that even modern science has not yet uncovered its secrets. Described as a grotesque insectoid mass, Tegoth does not resemble traditional depictions of the great old ones. Instead of tentacles or cyclopean features, it is said to have a form covered in armored plating, multi-jointed limbs, and a maw filled with gnashing otherworldly mandibles, a being more akin to the most nightmarish of alien predators, lying in wait beneath the Arctic tundra. Legends claim that it was once worshipped by an ancient civilization, one that existed in the Arctic long before recorded history. These early cultists made blood sacrifices to keep Tegoth pleased, believing that if they failed, it would awaken in a hunger-fueled frenzy and consume everything in its path. But as time passed, the civilization vanished, and its god fell into a deep sleep, lost beneath the shifting glaciers and permafrost. But here's the terrifying part. He is not dead. The great old ones do not die, as we understand it. They sleep, they wait, and they dream. And the Arctic, as isolated and untouched as it may seem, is changing. As the ice melts and new territories are uncovered, what else might be unearthed? What if, Buried beneath miles of frozen wasteland, an ancient nightmare is simply waiting for the right conditions to wake once more. And if that day ever comes, will we even see it coming? There are things beneath the earth, things older than humanity, older than life itself. Some claim they are remnants of a time before this world took shape, when the cosmos was still raw and chaotic. One such entity is Nyoghtha, a name that should never be spoken aloud. Called the thing that should not be, Nyoghtha is a being of pure, undiluted darkness, an amorphous entity that slithers through the unseen veins of the planet, hiding in the endless caverns deep below. Unlike many other eldritch horrors, Nyoghtha is awake. It does not slumber like Cthulhu, or wait for the right stars to rise. It is always moving, shifting through the hollow spaces beneath us, seeping through cracks in the world that should not exist. Some say it emerges only in the deepest caves, where explorers and cultists alike vanish without a trace. Others whisper that it can stretch its influence into the surface world, manifesting in shadows that move when no light source changes. In whispers heard in complete silence, in the paralyzing terror of those who feel something watching from a pitch-black room. Nyoghtha is not a god, nor does it seek worship. It does not offer knowledge or favor. It only takes. Those who encounter it, if they even live long enough to comprehend what they've seen, are left with a single truth. There are things beneath the world that should never be disturbed, and yet the cults still dig. While some eldritch beings represent destruction or madness, Golonac is something far worse. This deity of corruption, depravity, and desire does not simply destroy the body. It rots the soul from the inside out. Golonac is not bound to a single form. Those who encounter it rarely live to describe it, and those who do often lose their sanity in the process. Some say it appears as a massive, headless, swollen being, its mouths located in the palms of its hands, speaking in whispers that are neither heard nor ignored. Others claim it has no true form at all, instead manifesting through the minds and bodies of those who allow it in. And this is where the true horror begins. Unlike other great old ones that require elaborate rituals or planetary alignments, Golonac's influence spreads through knowledge itself. To read its name, to learn its stories, to even think too deeply about it, is to invite it into your consciousness. It does not demand blood sacrifices or summonings. It only needs an open mind. And once it takes root, it festers. It twists the desires of its victims, warping their morality, driving them to acts they would never have imagined themselves capable of. It turns ordinary people into monsters, not by force, but by revealing what was always inside them. Some have speculated that Golonac exists in hidden places, old libraries, forgotten archives, anywhere forbidden knowledge festers. It waits within the words, within the symbols, searching for a mind unguarded enough to invite it in. And the worst part? It doesn't need to hunt you down. You find it first. Deep beneath the waves, beyond the reach of any human exploration, it waits. In the sunken city of R'lyeh, hidden within an alien geometry that warps reality itself, the most infamous of all eldritch beings slumbers, Cthulhu. Unlike other cosmic horrors that remain distant, unconcerned with human affairs, Cthulhu is deeply connected to Earth. It is not just a great old one, it is their leader, a being whose existence predates humanity, and whose influence still seeps into our world, despite its apparent dormancy. Described as an impossibly massive, grotesque fusion of cephalopod, humanoid, and dragon-like features, Cthulhu is the embodiment of something that should not exist. Its tentacled head, massive wings, and imposing hulking body are not bound by the physical limitations of our universe. Those who have glimpsed it, whether in dreams or in ancient carvings, describe something that constantly shifts, an entity whose very form eludes human comprehension. But Cthulhu's true power is not in its size, nor in its physical might. It is in its mind. Though it sleeps, its consciousness reaches out, infecting the dreams of sensitive individuals, whispering to those attuned to the unseen. Entire cults, stretching across the globe and spanning countless centuries, have dedicated themselves to awakening their god, believing that when R'lyeh rises from the sea, humanity will end, and Cthulhu will rule once more. The most horrifying part? They might be right. Unlike gods of myth, Cthulhu is not benevolent nor malevolent. It is indifferent. It does not seek revenge or conquest because it does not see us as equals. We are to Cthulhu what ants are to humans, irrelevant, insignificant, beneath notice. If it wakes, if its reign begins anew, we will not be enslaved, we will simply be erased. The famous phrase, spoken in rituals and etched into the minds of cultists, echoes this fate. In his house at R'lyeh, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. It waits, and one day, it will wake. If Cthulhu is the terror of the deep, Hastur is something far more insidious. Its influence is not physical, nor does it come from a sunken city. It comes from words, symbols, and ideas. Known as the King in Yellow, Hastur is a being associated with madness, forbidden knowledge, and an inescapable descent into insanity. Unlike many other eldritch beings that require summoning or worship, Hastur does not need to be called. It only needs to be acknowledged. To know of Hastur is to invite it into your reality. It is deeply tied to a mysterious play, a cursed work of literature also titled The King in Yellow. Those who read it, those who glimpse its forbidden pages, find their perception of reality shifting. The words sink into the mind, unraveling the world as they know it. Some describe it as a revelation, others as an infection of thought. Once the knowledge has taken root, there is no escape. Hastur is not seen in a traditional sense. It is felt, whispered, lurking at the edge of perception. Some describe it as a cloaked figure wearing a tattered yellow robe, a presence that moves just out of sight, always watching, always waiting. But those who look too long, those who understand too much, realize something far more terrifying. There is nothing beneath the robes. Hastur's reach extends beyond mere literature. Some believe it exists in symbols, in patterns, in phrases that should never be spoken aloud. A single mention, an unintentional invocation, can be enough to invite it into one's mind. It does not kill, at least not in a conventional sense. It does something worse. It corrodes reality itself. Victims do not die screaming. They fade, their minds unraveling into gibbering nothingness, their existence reduced to an echo of something that once was. And yet, its name is still spoken. Its symbols still appear. The play is still read, not because people are ignorant, but because Hastur wants to be known. Beyond time, beyond space, beyond reality itself, exist beings so vast, so utterly incomprehensible, that they render all human understanding meaningless. These are the outer gods, the true architects of the universe, if the word architect even applies to entities that do not build, do not create with intent, and may not even be aware of what they have wrought. Unlike the great old ones, who slumber on distant worlds or beneath the seas, the outer gods do not simply exist within the universe. They are above it, beyond it, outside of all known dimensions. They are not bound by laws of physics or causality. They do not obey logic, nor do they care for the insignificant specks of dust that humans call civilizations. To call them gods is misleading. Gods, as we understand them, seek worship, enact plans, rule over existence with purpose. The outer gods do none of these things. They are pure, chaotic forces, entities whose presence alone warps the fabric of reality. Some say they are the very essence of the universe itself, the fundamental forces that hold existence together, or threaten to tear it apart. Others whisper that they are the nightmares of an even greater being, echoes of something far more terrifying than we can imagine. They do not speak, at least not in any way we could understand. They do not think, at least not in ways that align with our concept of intelligence. To them, we are less than insects, less than bacteria. We are nothing. Some may manifest, or at least attempt to, in ways that can be perceived. A pulsating mass of tentacles, cosmic fire, ever-shifting geometries, or an infinite cacophony of sound and madness. But these are only fragments, echoes of their true forms, distorted through the fragile lens of human perception. Some outer gods are said to be in constant motion, their presence rippling across the cosmos, shaping galaxies without care or intent. Others remain in deep, endless slumber, their dreams birthing new dimensions, altering the very nature of time and space. And then there are those who linger at the edges of existence, just beyond what we can see, waiting, watching, perhaps amused by our feeble attempts to comprehend them. Their influence is subtle, but devastating. Some are tied to insanity itself, warping the minds of those who dare to seek forbidden knowledge. Others fuel destruction, chaos, and entropy, the slow, inevitable unraveling of everything we know. There are even whispers that they can speak through dreams, infecting the subconscious of those who stumble too close to the truth. The cults that worship them do not expect mercy, nor do they believe in salvation. They know there is no bargaining, no negotiating. Their devotion is not one of faith, but of submission, a surrender to forces that could obliterate existence without so much as a thought. The outer gods do not care about humanity. They do not hate us, and that is what makes them so terrifying. The Black Goat of the Woods. There are gods that rule through destruction. Others reign through madness, through dreams, through sheer cosmic indifference. And then there is Shub-Niggurath, the embodiment of endless, relentless creation. Unlike many eldritch beings that slumber in isolation, Shub-Niggurath is active, ever-growing, ever-expanding. It is said that its form is a writhing, shapeless mass of darkness, constantly birthing countless offspring, grotesque, formless creatures that spread its influence across the universe. But despite this overwhelming presence, Shub-Niggurath is an enigma, one of the few entities that appears in both categories of eldritch horrors, the outer gods and the great old ones. Some cults believe it is the consort of the most powerful outer gods, an eternal force of grotesque fertility, feeding the cosmos with its unholy creations. Others insist it is a great old one, tied more directly to Earth and its hidden ancient horrors. The truth? No one knows for certain, but what is agreed upon is this. Shub-Niggurath is not a singular being in the way we understand gods. It is a force, a corruption of the very concept of life itself. Rituals dedicated to this entity are among the oldest and most disturbing recorded in the Necronomicon. Many are centered around sacrifice, blood offerings meant to appease it or gain its blessings. Those who do receive them are forever changed. Some become something more than human, others become something far worse. And for those who seek to understand Shub-Niggurath, to truly grasp the nature of its influence, they often lose more than just their sanity. If you want to go even deeper into the horror of this entity, we have an entire video dedicated to it, where we explore its myths, cults, and the terrifying implications of its existence. But be warned, this is knowledge that comes with a price. There are things the human eye is not meant to see. There are truths the mind is not built to comprehend. And then there is Daoloth, a being that does not destroy, does not corrupt, does not torment. It only reveals. At first glance, Daoloth might not seem as monstrous as other eldritch beings. It does not drive people insane through nightmares, nor does it crush civilizations beneath its colossal form. But its power is something far worse. The complete and utter destruction of perception as we know it. Those who encounter Daoloth claim to see everything, not just what is before them, but what is behind, above, below, and beyond, all at once. They see the world not as it appears, but as it truly is, a fractured, chaotic existence where dimensions overlap, where time is not linear, where nothing is truly separate. Imagine seeing every possible version of reality at the same time. Imagine realizing that the walls around you are not solid, that the people you love are made of shifting, overlapping forms, that the ground beneath you is not truly there, but only an illusion your mind has created to keep you sane. This is what Daoloth does. It does not hate, nor does it seek to harm. It simply opens your eyes, and that is enough to break a person beyond repair. Some claim that those who glimpse Daoloth can never unsee what they have seen. Even after they turn away, their minds are shattered. Some go blind, desperately clawing at their eyes to remove the visions that will never leave them. Others become paralyzed, unable to function in a world that they now know is nothing but a fragile deception. And then, there are those who vanish, not because they were taken, but because they understood too much. Because once you see what reality truly is, can you ever truly exist within it again? There are many theories about the origins of life, scientific explanations, religious beliefs, cosmic mysteries, but buried deep within the forbidden texts of the Necronomicon, an alternative origin is whispered, a truth so disturbing that those who uncover it rarely remain sane. At the heart of this unspeakable revelation lies CUbbo Sathla, a shapeless protoplasmic horror said to be the source of all life on Earth, and perhaps beyond. Unlike other eldritch beings that inspire terror through sheer destruction or madness, CUbbo Sathla is something else entirely. A mindless, churning mass of undifferentiated matter, eternally birthing and absorbing its own offspring in a cycle without end. It is neither benevolent nor malevolent. It does not act with intention, nor does it seek control or chaos. It simply exists, spreading its pulsating, amorphous flesh across the ages, endlessly consuming and creating new forms of life. Some cults believe that all living things originally spawned from it, that every organism, from the smallest microbe to the most complex beings, was once a fragment of CUbbo Sathla. And yet, despite being a primordial force, there are whispers of intelligence lurking within its formless body. Some claim that deep within its pulsing, shifting mass, it holds the memories of all things that have ever lived, an eternal record of existence itself. But to approach it, to attempt to understand its nature, is to risk becoming part of it, absorbed into its eternal, mindless reproduction. Some theorists suggest that if CUbbo Sathla truly is the origin of all life, then perhaps the cycle is not yet complete. That one day, everything, every living thing on Earth, may be reclaimed, returning to the protoplasmic mass from which it first emerged. If that day comes, will it be the end of life, or simply the beginning once again? Most eldritch entities take physical forms, vast, writhing horrors, tentacled abominations, or incomprehensible shapes that distort reality. But Tulzscha is different. It is fire. Not fire as we know it. Not something that burns, that consumes, that brings warmth or destruction. No, Tulzscha is something far worse. It is an unnatural, writhing emerald flame, a sentient entity that exists in the deepest voids of the cosmos, where no light should be, and yet it burns eternally. The Necronomicon speaks little of Tulzscha, and perhaps that is for the best. What is known is that it dwells within the court of the outer gods, flickering at the heart of their domain, an endless beacon of incomprehensible energy. Some believe it is a messenger, a living conduit of eldritch knowledge, channeling forbidden wisdom through its hypnotic flames. Others whisper that Tulzscha is a parasite, feeding off the raw cosmic power of the outer gods themselves, growing stronger with every moment it burns. Those who witness its glow are forever changed. The green light seeps into the mind, unraveling reason, exposing thoughts that should never be formed. Some describe it as a fire that does not burn the body, but the soul, leaving those who stare into it empty husks, vessels of something far beyond human comprehension. There are cults who seek Tulzscha, believing that by gazing into its flames, they will gain knowledge that no mortal was ever meant to possess. Perhaps they do, but those who return, if they return at all, are never the same. They do not scream, they laugh, not in joy, not in madness, but in understanding. And that, above all else, is the greatest horror of Tulzscha. At the heart of all existence, beyond the reach of galaxies, dimensions, and time itself, there is no throne of divinity. There is no grand cosmic order. There is only madness, and at its center writhes Azathoth, the nuclear chaos, the blind idiot god, an ever-shifting, bubbling mass of infinite energy and entropy, seething and mindless, an entity whose mere existence renders everything meaningless. Unlike other eldritch beings, Azathoth does not think, does not desire, does not plan. It simply exists, an all-consuming storm of infinite chaos that constantly expands, collapses, and reshapes itself, birthing and annihilating matter in a mindless, ceaseless cycle. It is not evil, nor cruel, nor even indifferent. It simply is. But the true horror? Azathoth is said to be the source of all reality. Everything, the stars, the planets, our own existence, may be nothing more than the meaningless dream of this blind, writhing thing. A dream that could end at any moment. Should Azathoth stir? Should its slumber be broken? Should the eternal piping of the mad flutes that lull it to sleep ever cease? Yes, the outer gods dance around it, grotesque and chaotic, playing a melody that is not music, but the very fabric of existence itself, preventing Azathoth from awakening. Because if it does, everything, all of reality, may simply cease to be. Unlike Azathoth, a force of mindless destruction, Nyarlathotep is different. Nyarlathotep thinks, it plans, it moves among us. Known as the Crawling Chaos, Nyarlathotep is the messenger and avatar of the outer gods, an entity that does not simply exist beyond human comprehension. It actively seeks to interact with us, but not out of kindness, not out of malice. Nyarlathotep exists to spread madness, despair, and corruption, not through brute force, but through manipulation. Unlike other eldritch entities, Nyarlathotep does not slumber in some distant abyss. It walks the earth. It wears many masks, taking countless forms. Some human, some monstrous, some indescribable. Some say it has appeared throughout history as prophets, rulers, visionaries, leading entire civilizations toward their own doom, whispering knowledge that should never be known, pulling the strings behind the most catastrophic moments in human history. It does not destroy with tentacles or claws. It destroys with secrets, with knowledge, with persuasion. It whispers into the minds of the weak, planting ideas that fester and consume. It appears in dreams, revealing cosmic truths that drive mortals into insanity. And the worst part? Nyarlathotep enjoys it. Unlike the other outer gods, which are mindless forces of destruction, Nyarlathotep takes pleasure in human suffering. Not because it needs to, not because it has to, but simply because it can. It is a trickster, a deceiver, a corrupter of souls. And the terrifying thing is this: it could be here right now, watching, listening, and you would never know until it was too late. There is a saying among those who have glimpsed the forbidden texts of the Necronomicon: Yog Sothoth knows all things, and it does. Unlike Azathoth, a mindless chaos, and Nyarlathotep, a manipulative trickster, Yog Sothoth is something else entirely. It is omniscience itself, an entity that exists outside of time, outside of space, outside of everything we can comprehend. It is known as the key in the gate because it is both the pathway to knowledge and the guardian of it. It exists everywhere and nowhere, a being of endless overlapping spheres, a pulsating, radiant mass that is neither entirely physical nor entirely conceptual. To look upon it is to see everything, all pasts, all presents, all futures, all possibilities, at once. But therein lies the danger. Those who seek knowledge of Yog Sothoth may receive it. They may learn the secrets of time, glimpse the cosmic structure of reality, understand things no mortal should ever know. But the mind is not meant for such knowledge. Those who gaze upon it do not die screaming. They stop being human. Some claim that those who truly comprehend Yog Sothoth are consumed by it, their consciousness unraveling into the infinite, forever trapped in the shifting, chaotic tapestry of all existence. Others say they vanish from time itself, erased from the past, present, and future, never having existed at all. But there is one last, chilling theory, that those who understand Yog Sothoth do not disappear. They become it. Some eldritch beings exist beyond time and space. Some lurk in forgotten tombs or whisper through the void. But Nagalah is different. Nagalah does not wait, does not slumber. It only grows. This entity is not a god in the way humans understand gods. It is not worshipped, nor does it seek followers. It is a living disease, an ever-expanding, self-replicating mass of flesh, tumors, and writhing, cancerous growths that spread across everything they touch. Unlike other cosmic horrors that exist in the distant void, Nagalah is terrifying because it can be here, right now, feeding, consuming, multiplying. Described in forbidden texts as a shifting, amorphous network of flesh and nerves, Nagalah is an unstoppable biological force. Its growth is infinite, a grotesque intelligence that does not die, does not weaken, and cannot be contained. Wherever it spreads, it absorbs, consuming both organic and inorganic matter, converting everything into more of itself. The most horrifying aspect of Nagalah is that it is aware. Unlike a mindless disease or a parasite, Nagalah thinks, learns, and adapts. It does not simply spread, it strategizes. It knows when to grow and when to wait. It knows when to hide and when to strike. It is an entity of pure, insatiable hunger. But behind that hunger lurks something even worse: intelligence. Some speculate that it is already here, buried in the earth, hiding in the cells of living organisms, waiting for the right conditions to awaken and spread uncontrollably. There are whispers that some diseases, some tumors, some unexplained biological phenomena may not be natural at all, but rather small, unnoticed fragments of Nagalah, testing the waters before it reveals its full form. And if that day ever comes, it will not be an invasion, it will not be a war, it will be an infection, a slow, creeping corruption that starts in the smallest places, unnoticed until it is far too late. And by then, we will already be part of it. Not all eldritch beings are gods. Some are their servants, their messengers, or their soldiers, acting according to wills beyond human understanding. Others exist independently, forming ancient civilizations in hidden realms, deep oceans, or even among the stars. Some are mindless horrors, shifting masses of flesh and eyes, obeying instinct rather than reason. Others are highly intelligent, capable of shaping reality, walking unseen among us, or manipulating events from the shadows. They do not age, do not die, they only wait. Many guard the slumbering gods, ensuring that when the time comes, the barriers of reality will break. Some lurk in forgotten places, beneath the sea, within the void, or in dimensions we cannot perceive. They do not need to invade. They have always been here, just beyond human perception. And when the stars align, they will rise, long before their masters awaken. Let's explore them. Beneath the waves, hidden in ancient submerged cities, dwell the Profundos, an amphibious race of humanoid beings with bulging eyes, scaly skin, and webbed extremities. Unlike many eldritch creatures that remain distant from humanity, the Profundos actively interact with coastal civilizations, forming dark pacts with cultists who worship the great powers of the deep, Cthulhu and Dagon. These beings are not merely mindless servitors. They are a species, a civilization, one that has endured for eons, lurking beneath the sea, untouched by the rise and fall of human empires. Their most horrifying trait is their ability to interbreed with humans, creating hybrid offspring that appear normal at first, only to slowly transform over time, their features becoming more aquatic, their minds drawn to the call of the ocean. In the end, they leave the land behind, disappearing into the depths to join their kin. The Profundos do not invade, they assimilate. Beyond the lands of men, in the dark skies above forgotten places, soar the Shantax, great winged beasts larger than any horse or dragon, yet utterly unnatural in form and presence. These creatures, which are often used as mounts by those who traverse the void, possess slick, rubbery flesh, and an alien intelligence that makes them more than mere animals. They are obedient but not mindless, responding to the will of sorcerers and entities who know the correct ways to summon them. Though their wings seem adapted for flight, it is whispered that they do not truly fly, but rather slip between dimensions, bypassing the limitations of gravity and atmosphere. Some who have ridden them speak of a whispering presence felt in their minds, as though the Shantax are not merely beasts, but conduits for something else, something that listens. In the service of a different cosmic power, the Byashi exist as the insectoid enforcers and messengers of Hastur. These grotesque creatures are a fusion of bird, bat, and insect, their massive membranous wings carrying them effortlessly across the void between worlds. Unlike the Shantax, which are used for travel, the Byashi are hunters. Their purpose is to seek out and silence those who learn too much about the forbidden truths of the cosmos. Their chitinous bodies and empty soulless eyes suggest an intelligence far beyond mere beasts, and their buzzing cries are often the last thing their prey hears before being carried away into the night. Some cults summon them as mounts, but those who do so rarely retain their sanity, for the Byashi do not simply transport their riders. They warp them, altering their minds, twisting their perceptions, until they no longer belong to this world. While the Byashi serve Hastur, there are beings even more alien, creatures whose origin lies beyond our solar system, beyond even our dimension. The Migo, crustacean-like entities with membranous wings, are neither demons nor gods, but something far more unsettling. A highly intelligent technological species that does not think as we do. Unlike most eldritch beings, the Mygo are not tied to ancient ruins or forgotten temples. They operate in the present, working from the shadows, conducting experiments, harvesting biological material, and abducting humans for reasons unknown. Their knowledge of science and surgery is far beyond our understanding, and they are infamous for extracting the brains of their victims, preserving them in strange metallic cylinders that allow the conscious mind to remain active. Some of these preserved minds are said to have been carried beyond the stars, taken to places where the human soul was never meant to go. The Mygo do not seek to destroy, they seek to study, to manipulate, to harvest. And to them, we are nothing more than raw material. Long before humanity ever walked the earth, there existed another race, one that ruled in secrecy, built vast underground cities, and wielded powers that defied nature itself. The Hombres Serpiente were an ancient, highly intelligent reptilian species that thrived in the pre-human era, their civilizations stretching across the continents in an age that has now been erased from history. They were masters of sorcery and alchemy, their knowledge so advanced that they could shape reality itself, bending time, altering perception, and crafting illusions so perfect they could rewrite history itself. Some believe that they were wiped out by forces even greater than themselves, but others claim that they merely retreated into the depths of the earth, waiting for the right moment to reclaim their dominion. Unlike other eldritch horrors, they are not mindless monsters. They are calculating, patient, and very much aware of the world above them. And perhaps they are already influencing it from below. In the forgotten corners of human civilization, lurking in graveyards, catacombs, and ancient crypts, the ghouls feast on the flesh of the dead. These twisted, ghoulish creatures, once human, have long since abandoned their former identities, driven by an insatiable hunger that can never be sated. They are not merely scavengers, they form underground societies, existing in places where the living fear to tread. Unlike common undead creatures of folklore, ghouls are intelligent, their minds still intact despite their horrifying nature. They do not hunt for sport, they do not kill for pleasure. They simply wait, knowing that in time, all things decay, and when they do, they will be there to consume what remains. Some whisper that the ghouls possess forbidden knowledge, that those who can stomach their company might learn secrets buried beneath the sands of time, secrets that no living man was meant to know. But perhaps the most nightmarish creatures of all are those that serve Nyarlathotep directly, beings whose existence is void of all humanity, all emotion, all sense of individuality. The night gaunts, faceless silent figures with smooth black skin and enormous membranous wings, are the enforcers of the crawling chaos. They never speak, never make a sound, yet their presence is undeniable, an overwhelming sensation of dread and suffocation that accompanies them wherever they go. Those who are marked by Nyarlathotep are often taken by them, swept away into the night, never to be seen again. Unlike other eldritch horrors, the night gaunts do not kill, nor do they torture. They simply take, their talon-like hands gripping their victims with inescapable force, dragging them into the abyss. Where they go, what happens to those taken, remains unknown. The only certainty is that no one ever returns. Conclusion. The Necronomicon is more than just a book. It is a gateway to the unknown, a collection of horrors that stretch beyond fiction and into the depths of our deepest fears. Whether these entities are merely creations of the human imagination or echoes of something far more sinister, the fact remains that they endure, whispered through history, buried in forbidden texts, and lingering in the minds of those who dare to seek them. From the cosmic gods that shape reality to the twisted creatures that lurk in the shadows, we have explored some of the most terrifying beings said to inhabit this nightmarish mythology. And yet, this is only the beginning. The horrors of the Necronomicon run deeper than we can comprehend, and for every entity we have uncovered, there are countless more waiting in the dark, watching, listening, and perhaps even waiting to be found. If you enjoyed this journey into madness and the unknown, don't forget to leave a like. It really helps us bring you more content like this. And if you want to continue exploring the depths of cosmic horror, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos diving even deeper into the mythos. Let us know in the comments, which entity terrified you the most? Which horror would you like us to explore next? Because in the world of eldritch terror, there is always something worse lurking just beyond our understanding. This was the Great Abyss, and we'll see you in the next descent into the unknown.